Hello, welcome to Bottle Up Videos. I'm Lou.
John,
and there's a series here. And the first one we actually talked about, we took the analogy of a road and talked about the different routes that John could have taken in the beginning when the alcoholic signs were there. We're now going to talk about your 30s, and this is like a motorway now that you're on with lots of different crashes all around you, but you can't ever find any exits. And that's kind of where we've arrived. You're what, about 30?
Yeah, I mean, my 20s and 30s were, my drinking changed in my 20s. After I got married at 25, and my wife didn't like my friends. And looking back now, who can blame her? We just sat around drinking and taking drugs, so party time,
So you lost a marriage.
I eventually lost a marriage. I lost a marriage, in my 30s, but not when I was 25. But,
and directly down to drink?
Oh, absolutely. It was unquestionably it was down to drink.
So your wife found a way out of this horrible alcoholic motorway.
Yeah, I mean, she had pleaded with me many times, and we had big arguments, big fights, and I had promised, and I had done all sorts of things, and I'd done all the stuff that we talk about on the website, I'd done all of that. She had done all the things that we talk about not to do in the website, and that's not putting any blame on her at all in any way. I mean, she didn't know anything else, and she didn't know any better. And eventually she just said, I can't take this anymore, and she walked out because, and my reaction to it was good, because now I can drink like a gentleman. So there. Now, I'd never drank like a gentleman, so how I was going to just drink like a gentleman now, I'd have no idea.
So
but
the denial was really intense by that point then.
Yes, that was my middle name, John Denial.
Okay, so what did you wish you'd known in the very grip of the alcoholism? I think some people will be really leaning forward on their seat here.
I think one of the things that a lot of people say to me is, if I give up drinking, then what?
Right, okay.
I won't have a social life. I won't be able to go anywhere. I won't be able to do anything. And this is what I was talking about in the last video, this dependent, that alcohol has become the most important thing in our lives. So you take that away. There's just this empty shell in the middle of your life. And and when I gave up drinking, I gave it up knowing that this was going to happen. But I was so sick of me, sick of who I had become, that I would rather just sit in this elephant's graveyard, than sort of continue being this person.
And was it an elephant's graveyard?
Absolutely not.
And I'm going to say this
None
again.
whatsoever.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
So you're saying that for a drinker who's really bad, what looks for them is just going to be a life of despair, emptiness and nothingness. And you've believed it with all your heart.
Yes,
okay.
I did. I mean, it was despair.
And it was an absolute delusion.
I mean, I said it time and time again. You have a certain amount of alcohol in your life, a certain amount of happiness, used it all up. That's it.
Okay. But actually...
Then I walk through this door.
Yeah. Sobriety.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have to say I didn't like it very much at the beginning.
No.
I found it was hard, found it was difficult. But then I found one or two people who started to show me that maybe, just maybe, there might be a life after alcohol, And I found myself, I found myself one day laughing.
Did you?
I laughed,
Yes.
I mean, I was John Misery Guts, and then I found myself laughing. And the most amazing thing happened, the absolutely stunning thing happened, is I was sitting in my mother's doorstep. I was just sitting there and minding my own business, smoking. That's why I was out on the doorstep, because I still smoked at that time. And I was just sitting there, and my mind was just kind of drifting. And then this thought came into my head. And that thought was, I wouldn't mind having me as a friend. And so, where did that come from?
Really?
And it was the first time I'd really thought about myself positively for a long time.
Gosh.
The first time. And it was this alien thought wandering about my head. I'm thinking, how did that get in there? You know, and then I started to slowly but surely, I started to almost like myself. I started to feel, maybe I'm worth it. Maybe I'm worth it. And then I started to think, well, you know, what do I do now? And then this other thought came, what do you want to do? You don't, excuse me, what do I want to do? Because everything had been dictated with where was the next drink coming from. And I'll tell you, being an alcoholic is hard work. You know, you might not think that, but it is. Because you've got to find the money to drink. Then you've got to go and find somewhere, some pub that you're not barred from, or that people don't hate you, that you can have a drink in and start to feel a wee bit better. Then, you know, you've got to make sure that you've got the alcohol for the rest of the day, and on it goes. And then the next day you get up and it all starts all over again. It's hard work. So everything was dictated, but where's the next drink coming from, or where's the money for the next drink coming from? And all of a sudden, here it is. What do you want to do? And I had sat in pubs in Glasgow and said, see, tomorrow I'm going to climb the mountains of Scotland. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, because I've got a drink here, you know. And then, you know, and I would say, you know, and tomorrow, do you know what I'd really like to do? I'd love to learn to scuba dive. Mm. Tomorrow, you know. I'd love to sail around the Greek islands tomorrow.
I think we get it. So what happened?
I started to climb the mountains in Scotland.
Yes.
And I loved it. Loved the freedom up there. I learned to scuba dive. I scuba dived all over the world, even cage dive with great white sharks in South Africa. And I learned to sail, and I sailed around the Greek islands. I did all of that. But one of the things that had always bugged me is that while I was at school, the only ambition I had was to be a former pupil. Hated it. Just wanted out. Life was over, you know. I'm off. And so I left with not very many qualifications, but I always knew I was bright. So I went back to education, I got a degree in psychology, and then I went on and got a fellowship from the Scottish office it was at that time, and they paid for me to go and do a PhD, and then I went on and got another fellowship from the Scottish office, they paid for me to do research, and then I became a university lecturer. And then, you know, and on it went, you know, and I got a lot of success. I published in lots of journals and things like that. And all of a sudden, I had gone from the hopeless drunk to the person who talked about drinking, you know. So life actually opened up for me. And that's one of the things that I often end up talking to the drinkers that I see in my counselling room. I talk about hope. Mm. I talk about opportunity. Now, sometimes they look at me with opportunity. Yeah, you know, this is giving up. And they go, yeah, it is giving up. It's giving up an old life. You know, it's we're back to the pantomime. You know, old lives or new lives for old. You know, used it in Aladdin. You know, new lamps for old. You know, this is too good to be true. It's not too good to be true, because you get a new life if you want it, but you don't come and give you it. You actually have to work for it. But the thing is, it's there. There is an opportunity to do this. And this is, more and more I've started to talk about the opportunity. More and more I've started to talk about, you know, this isn't an ending, it's a beginning, you know. And I really feel that now. I really, really feel it. And okay, yes, these things have happened for me, but I know lots and lots of people who have gone on to do great things. And it doesn't necessarily have to be big things. But one of the biggest and best things, and I still remember it today, you know, still remember it so well, was sitting on my mother's step, saying, I wouldn't mind having me as a friend. Gone from a person that
I'm just
hated...
going to butt in here and say, amongst other things, he makes a wonderful friend. So, yes.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, what I'm saying is that for somebody who hated themselves with a passion, to actually believe that, you know, all the other things were great for the icing on the cake, But it's that relationship I had with me. That's the thing. That was the thing that really you thought, wow, that will never happen to me. That, I'm not saying I'm perfect, and she'd probably tell you that as well,
We'll do that in another video. It'll be too
we'll do
long.
that in another video. But and I'm not perfect, and I have to say there are some traits that I quite like, and maybe other people don't, but I do, and I like being me. I like being sort of mischievous, etc. Or as other people might say, annoying. But the thing is, I can look in the mirror now and I can see the person looking back at me and go, yeah, you're all right. You're all right. And I remember somebody telling me way at the beginning of sobriety, and they said, one day you'll look in the mirror and you'll actually see the whites of your eyes. And I thought, what does that mean? And I looked in the mirror and he was like this red, sort of.
It's a real
eyes
sign,
back.
isn't it, of a drinker?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like some demon from the pit looking back, these red eyes, and then one day I looked and they were clear. Yeah. They were actually clear, and I thought, oh, right, that's what he's talking about. And all of these things started to happen, So I think, to sum up, if one thing I would love to, I ended the last video by saying if I could go back and tell my 19-year-old self, look, this is what would happen. And this one I want to say, if I could go back and tell my 30-year-old self, look, this is what could happen. This is what's there for you if you go through that door rather than continue on your way. To go back to Lou's talking about the motorways and the side roads and etc. There's a huge, I'm on a side road, but there's a motorway road going up the side of that there.
There's a new streamlined, beautiful motorway
Absolutely.
into the life, the cities of life. Yeah.
And I keep driving past it and go, too narrow, too restrictive. I can't do that, And it's not, I had a great love, when I was a teenager, a young, sort of 20-year-old, and I was a hippie and I was all about freedom and that, and I wasn't the slightest bit free because I was trapped. I was trapped inside here. I was trapped inside the mind. I was trapped inside my addiction. I was trapped inside taking substances, and it wasn't until I actually put all of that down that I started to find real freedom, So that's what I wish I could tell my 30-year-old. That's what I wish I could go back and say, hey, that's what's waiting for you if you want it.
Great. So at the beginning, it really is take care. You're actually getting on a road, which is up ahead. It's going to be very difficult. And the second is take hope. You're on a road that's really, really difficult.
Absolutely.
But you can take a road to freedom.
Yep.
And live in a different land for the rest of your life. So, thanks for listening. And now we're going to do a reverse. So in a couple of videos, John's going to ask the same thing to me, and we're going to do the same questions.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.